Thank you, Audrey.
Sorry.
No. And now our invocation, Carrie Powers. Good luck, Carrie.
Every single president has battled with the gooseneck. It's all right. You're not the only one. Let's bow our heads. Father in heaven, you have given most of mankind a strong desire to do good, to be honest, to serve others, and to faithfully fulfill their obligations to their neighbors. Help us as Rotarians and humans to do good. Help us as Rotarians and humans to be honest and ethical in all of our dealings. Help us as Rotarians and humans to serve others. And help us as Rotarians and humans to faithfully fulfill our obligations as neighbors to our community, our nation, and the world. Please bless each and every one of us as we move through our lives this week. Please lift up our fellow Rotarians who could not be here with us today for whatever reason. And finally, please bless this food and the hands who prepared it so that it may strengthen us as we serve this wonderful community we call home. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Carrie. And now, before we move any further on the agenda, I would like to take just a moment of personal privilege for us to acknowledge once again the passing of Jack Van Loan, our fellow Rotarian, a great friend, and certainly a great American. Last week, I think we were all too sad and too much in shock when it was announced, and I just feel like we need to make some further comments, or at least I know I do. Jack was one of the most amazing, inspiring, and courageous men that I have ever known. Can you even imagine enduring 6 years of captivity as a prisoner of war during the Vietnam War? And then when he emerged, he was not bitter. I don't know how he could manage, but he was very grateful to his country and very determined to make it even better. And that he did, one person at a time. Those of us who knew him were truly better for it. We were lucky to have Jack in our midst. He was an inspiration, true friend, and a true gentleman. Will you bow your heads once again with me for just a moment of silence in Jack's memory? Dear God, we ask you to bless Jack and his family, and may he know beyond a shadow of a doubt the thanks of a very grateful nation for his service to our country, as well as for his love, friendship, and guidance to each of us. May he now rest in peace, a peace so well deserved, but he will be missed. Amen. Okay. Oh, I do want to say that the memorial service for Jack will be held this Saturday, the 26th, 1:45 to 3 at Centennial Plaza. It's right there on Santee, at the bottom of Santee in Five Points area, and if you know, that's where his statue is located. So that's where they will hold the memorial service this Saturday, the 26th. Okay, moving on a much lighter note, introducing visiting Rotarians and guests, Blake Buchanan.
Thanks, President Lisa. We do not have any visiting Rotarians today, but I did hear from someone on staff here that she saw a lot of new old faces. So welcome back. If some of you haven't been able to be with us for a while, we're glad you're here today. And if you have a guest, if you don't mind standing up and introducing your guest, we appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Libby Gober, and I'm delighted to have as my guest someone who does not need an introduction. He used to be a member of this club, Mo Bedora. Mo serves on Columbia City Council, and as just a shot, he is running for re-election on November 4th.
I'm Henry Morris, and I'm pleased to have with me a part of our Salvation Army team, Miss Lisa Hoffman, who is our PR volunteer and and disaster coordinator. And right here, Mr. Mark Barrett, who is our Director of Resource and Development. Oh, give him a hand clap.
I'm Rusty DePass, and I'm real pleased to have as my guest today people from the Voter Registration and Election Commission for Richland County, my old friend Becky Brown, who is the precinct coordinator, and I'm going to, because I'm so old and stupid, I'm going to ask her to introduce everybody else because I can't remember their names.
Good afternoon. Thank y'all for having us here today. Again, I'm Becky Brown, precinct coordinator. I have Cale Carter, who is our outreach coordinator, Terry Graham, our interim director, and Keisha Diggs, who is our precinct clerk, and we have one more outside, Emily Brown, who is a precinct clerk.
Be sure to check out the voting machines if you have a minute after the meeting.
Thank you, and Rusty said if he can do it, anybody else in here can, so those machines must not be too hard. But thank you to all of our guests. We look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake. And it's not a hard process. I didn't try the machines, but it's a two-part process, so it is different. It would behoove you to take a look, so don't forget. Okay, health and happiness, Gary Forth.
How's everybody doing? Good weekend? So it's, I always talk about, and it's kind of funny whenever I do health and happiness, I always start at the beginning of football season, the middle, and the end, which is kind of funny. Yeah, we talked about Jack Van Loan. I was able to read a little article on him in the paper when I was sitting out at the table. What a special guy. And then Bob Diggle, his niece, passed away, so if you could keep their family in your prayers. Along with Commander Charlie Lindler passed away as well, so let's keep their families in your prayers. And then this Saturday and Sunday at the Koger Center, they're having the Dracula dance performance, so if you guys don't have anything going on after the Carolina win versus Tennessee, go ahead and check them out and see what they got going on. Wanted to make another quick announcement about the CART committee. Obviously, Alzheimer's is not something that anybody wants to have to go through, or any loved ones need to go through. And it was on the PowerPoint, but I just want to read you some kind of interesting stats. And it was the question that asked, what disease scares people, scares you the most? And Alzheimer's, cancer, depression, and heart disease were the four that were selected. And Alzheimer's was 40%, and cancer was actually 39%. So it's kind of an interesting thing to think about, and going into, don't forget to contribute to the CART bucket. That research, that money is going for research that we need to kind of help further that process. But just wanted to make a quick note about that, and then now we can dive into, I guess, we got a lot of Carolina fans in here. Either watched or were at the game Saturday, and I know a lot of people are frustrated with the officiating. And I was told that the SEC officiating crew has a scheduled appointment at the Sainsbury Eye Clinic here in town. Not just ours, but the entire officiating team. As you guys all well know, I don't think that we were going to win or lose based off a few of those calls, but it was very frustrating. I know Coach Muschamp about decapitated one of the guys over there on the sideline, but for you guys that aren't football fans, I like to do the Carolina-Clemson comparison. So right now, USC, South Carolina, they are third in the SEC East, 3-4. I know last week wasn't great, but as many of you know, the week before we beat the number 3 team in the country, our arch rival Georgia, which was an unbelievable game to watch. Our guys played a heck of a game, coached well, and I'll say this, and I really mean it, whether the records or the rankings show it, I genuinely believe that South Carolina was a better team. So it's pretty neat. They finished with their 5 remaining games. They played Tennessee Saturday, Vanderbilt home, which they just announced is a 7:30 kick. App State will be a home game. They play at Texas A&M and finish obviously with Clemson Thanksgiving week. And 3 players that I want you guys to kind of keep your eye on, obviously. When Jake Bentley went down, Ryan Helinski, the freshman quarterback, took over, and he's done really well for South Carolina. So keep your eye on him. And then a guy that has emerged as one of the best players in the country this year, his name is Javon Kinlaw, defensive tackle. He has caused hell for the opposing offenses. So been really neat for him to watch him. And right now, there are a few draft predictions that have him going 3rd overall in the NFL draft in the spring. So it's pretty cool to see our program. You know, obviously we're not winning quite like Clemson, but to get these players coming in, it's hats off to Coach Muschamp and his staff. And then, unfortunately, you got to talk about Clemson. They're obviously doing really well. They beat UNC a couple weeks ago by the skin of their teeth. Probably should have lost. But a little bias going on here. No, but they've obviously got another great team. They're playing well, and they finished. They have Boston College, Wofford, North Carolina State, a really good Wake Forest team. Then they'll finish the season here in Columbia versus South Carolina, and they're looking about as good as they ever have. Obviously, their quarterback play has been a little iffy. He's turned the ball over a little bit, but they're still winning big time. And then they probably have on their defense one of the best players in the country as well. His name's Isaiah Simmons. He's actually leading the ACC in tackles right now. He is an absolute baller, and it'll be tough to see them lose. I think the only game I could really see them losing, and honestly, would be here in Columbia. I think they'll kind of go through their schedule and route everybody just like they have so far this year. But
some of us think Wofford's going to take.
yeah, Wofford, you never know with that triple option. They tackle well. They play fundamentally sound football for sure. But yeah, we're excited for the remaining back half of the season. I know you guys are as well. I know it's been kind of an up and down year for us Carolina fans, but you know, the future is looking promising, and you know, we got a lot of winnable games left on our schedule to actually finish with a decent year, having started pretty slow. So it'll be good. So y'all keep your eyes on both Carolina and Clemson as we finish the back half of the year, and make sure you, if you have season tickets or if you are a fan, try to go to the games. It means a lot to the players to have a packed Williams-Brice. And they're putting a good product out on the field. We just got to turn it into some wins, and I think we're moving in the right direction. So that's all I got for you today. Go Cox.
Thank you, that was great. We've got so much going on. I hope you guys realize that we have so many opportunities for service and fellowship. So I hope that you will, first of all, refer to the screens. You will have it on a rotating basis, all the details. But I want you to sign up to participate and certainly come, because we really want to see you there and for everybody to get together and get to know each other better. But special mention on your tables, the flyers for the Cooperative Ministry Clothing Drive, November 4th. Is that right, Beth? Okay. 2 weeks from today. So check the list and bring your items that day if you can. Also, World Polio Day is this week, celebrated at Segra Park, Thursday, October 24th, 11 to 2. There's still time to volunteer to help if you'd like, or just come help celebrate. Wonderful things have been done to eradicate polio in the world, and let's celebrate that. There's still work to be done, but there's a lot that has been done. The voting machines outside, don't forget that. And coming up, the elections, coming up, so we need to know how to use those new machines. And Andy Shane asked me to announce, as far as Salvation Army, day captains are still needed for some days. And just to remind you that students also need service hours. So when you're getting ready to bring some of your high school students with you, college. They all need service hours. So thank you, Andy. And now, we've got just a few minutes before we introduce our speaker. And because I feel like we're always in such a rush, we sit sometimes at the same tables, or if we sit at different tables, we don't really get to know the people we're sitting with. So let's take 5 minutes and just visit with each other. And then we'll get back together for our speaker. Thanks. Welcome back, Kishore. We missed you.
Hello. I just want to thank everyone for the prayers and best wishes for my recovery. I'm back in action now, ready to roll. Thank you.
You look great, and we are so glad to have you back. Thanks. Okay, now, great program, and here to introduce our speaker is Elliot Powell.
Thank you, President Lisa. Good afternoon, everyone. We've got an excellent program today. I'm excited to be able to introduce Elizabeth Hunter, who's traveled here from Raleigh. First, I want to tell you a little bit about my experience with Salvation Army. I like short introductions, but I'm kind of killing two birds here. I'm going to tell you about this program, which I think is probably one of the most compelling things that I've seen come along in a while, and really got my heart and soul into trying to make sure this happens. But the Salvation Army is an organization I was exposed to by my father, who was on the board many, many years ago. Bobby Richardson was a baseball hero that many of you know, a wonderful Christian leader. He was the keynote speaker at a number of different occasions, and my father knew how much I liked him. He actually coached my brother at Pony League back in the day. And so I had a connection with him, but he really inspired me about Salvation Army and what they do. And Carrie's prayer was, you can almost replace Rotary with the Salvation Army. It was very, very appropriate for today, because everything she said in that prayer is what they do. One exception is they do it better than anyone else. Doing the most good is something that is a mantle that they really do aspire to achieve on a daily basis, and I don't think the dollar is better spent than to give to them. 13 years on the board, I've really appreciated all of the things that they've done for the community, from housing the homeless to transitioning now to working with transitions. Just to blow your mind a little bit, they've served over 200,000 meals this year, coordinating with transitions. They've got a leveraging literacy program that's just taken off, really, really working well. As you all know, you have the opportunity to volunteer across the street. They are looking to, with the Christmas program, help 3,500 kids, 1,500 families have a decent Christmas. They have the Wood Yard Fund, which helps with utility bills and those kinds of issues. I don't know that there's a more effective disaster relief program provider anywhere. Their footprint is all over the world. Recently, my church gave $10,000 through the Midlands Corps directly to the Virgin Islands and right to the Corps offices that they had on the islands there, on the ground, boots on the ground. And they don't mind going into the middle of a disaster when everyone else is taking cover behind the scenes. One of the past majors went down to New Orleans after Katrina, and they were literally shooting automatic and weapons all around them, and they just right there bold, feeding people and endearing themselves to the community in the name of Jesus Christ. One of the things they're also really good at is intake. When we have people that come into our community, the homeless, whomever it might be, they're good at screening those folks, providing what services they can, but then they'll reach out to other organizations out there and coordinate services to make sure that they take these people and not just spit them out. They try to truly help them all the way through the process to find solutions. This particular program, Project Fight, is dealing with human trafficking, which is something that we don't necessarily understand completely in the community yet. Many may remember Elliot Daniels, who came and spoke to us with the U.S. Attorney's Office and really kind of enlightened us to what the true definition of human trafficking is. So you have some basis for this discussion today. Louise is certainly someone who has had firsthand experience with this and can tell you just how heart-wrenching it can be. But it is my pleasure today to give y'all some insight into the Salvation Army, and I do want you to consider signing up to be a bell captain, or at least making sure you ring. Joe Penner and I'd sing for you, but y'all make me shut up, so I'm just not going to do it. Joe Penner and I have been ringing and singing for about 30 years now. It's really been wonderful. My father and Joe and I started out doing it, and when my father passed away, we decided to keep it going. So come on out to Walmart on December 4th and midday, and you'll be able to chime in with us and sing some Christmas carols and hopefully raise another Crystal Bells earning for the most in one day shift. So that's my goal again this year. So getting into the introduction of our speaker. Elizabeth Hunter has a degree, or a master's degree in human services, 2012 from Liberty University. She is the Divisional Anti-Human Trafficking Director for the Salvation Army of North and South Carolina Divisions. In this role, she is responsible for anti-human trafficking awareness, education, and overall operation of Project FIGHT. The FIGHT stands for Freeing Individuals Gripped by Human Trafficking, which currently includes 6 locations across North Carolina, each providing case management, collaboration, and education. Elizabeth has over 15 years experience in human services field, working with people experiencing homelessness, adults with intellectual disabilities, and human trafficking. Again, Elizabeth has come here from North Carolina to tell us about how successful this program is in North Carolina. I will tell you that a real strong effort is underway and is being made as we speak to bring this program to South Carolina. Richland County has one of the highest rates of human trafficking in the state. It's a real problem behind the scenes, and many of you really don't know about it. It's happening under our noses. So Elizabeth, come tell us more about it and see if we can't get this going in South Carolina. Let's all have a warm up.
We're going to watch a quick video before I start. Human trafficking is a multi-billion-dollar criminal industry that denies freedom to over 40 million people around the world. And no matter where you live, chances are it's happening nearby. 71% of victims are women and girls. 25% are children. Survivors all share one thing: the loss of freedom. The Salvation Army is fighting for their freedom through awareness and training, prevention and outreach, survivor services and recovery, and partnerships and advocacy. Each survivor's journey is different, and through our anti-trafficking programs and partnerships, we work to meet their individual needs and empower them to move forward. Everyone is welcome to join our fight. Learn how to get involved at sajustice.us.
So good morning. Y'all been talking about football. Sorry, I'm going to change the conversation to something not quite as exciting as football for a few minutes, but very much needed to be talked about and to be at the table. And so I'm really glad that you invited me to come speak today and just share. Human trafficking just literally robs people of their dreams and of their futures, of anything that they had planned for themselves. If you think back when you were a kid, what dreams you had for yourself, whether it was to be a firefighter, a policeman, to be rich, to be a football player, it robs every bit of that from you to the core. It shatters all of that. And it really takes your future and exploits it. And we're privileged in Project FIGHT to be able to help survivors rebuild that future. Human trafficking dehumanizes people. It tells people that they're not loved, that they're stupid, that they're unworthy, that they can't do anything. And in Project FIGHT, we get the privilege to say you're brave, you're smart, you're beautiful, you're loved. And I think that's one of the biggest privileges of this job, is to be able to love on a survivor who's come out of a situation, who's been raped multiple times a day, or forced to work in horrible conditions without really getting paid. So it is a privilege to be able to do this work, but it doesn't come at a small cost. It takes a lot of investment and a lot of time. Project Fight started back in 2011. We started in North Carolina, in Raleigh actually, and we started very small at the time. We had a goal of serving 20 people our first year. We served 20 people within the first couple months of actually starting our program. I mean, I think within 3 months we had already reached the 20 people goal. And so we realized there's really this huge need for anti-trafficking efforts. We quickly grew across the state. As was said, we now have 6 locations, and those are very strategic locations. So we now are almost 8 years into our program and kind of like, where do we go? And we really want to expand to South Carolina. We've been attending meetings the last couple years, task force meetings with the Attorney General's office, the local Richland County ones, and really have seen this need in South Carolina for continued support around this issue. Right now, South Carolina is ranked number 20. That changes every couple months, up or down for all states, just based on the number of calls to the national hotline. But number 20, when you think of how many states there are, that's still too high, right? It's not number 20. It's not number 20, but not number 10, because there's not a problem. Okay, I want to make that real clear. So in North Carolina, we were like not number 10 for a really long time. We were also higher up on the list. And the more we started talking about it and having the conversation, and more agencies came to the table to serve, we saw that number go to 10. We saw it go from like a 17 to 10. So this is an issue in our community here. It's not a discriminator of persons. Doesn't care where you come from. Doesn't care how much money you have, what color you are. It doesn't care about any of that. It doesn't care whether you're male or female, adult or a child. We have known agencies to serve children as young as 3 months, as old as, I think we have one in their 60s, late 60s. So it's not a discriminator of persons. In Richland County, I don't know how many of y'all know, but Richland County is number 1 in South Carolina for reported cases of human trafficking, which probably means there's a lot more that's not been reported, because a lot of our clients don't like to report. And so number 1 though in this state. And so that's one reason why when we started talking about how we could move this effort to South Carolina, we looked at Columbia, because we know this area has higher numbers. South Carolina is in the top 20 because of a lot of different factors, but when you think of all the interstates that run through this state, that's a lot of transporting of people back and forth. Traffickers never keep people in the same place very long. They are on the go pretty quickly. And so all those interstates really do help connect them from place to place. And you have a lot of military bases. Sorry if you're past military, but that's just a fact. We know that in military towns, numbers are extremely higher for our referral calls, and it's unfortunate, but that's the case. A lot of universities here in South Carolina, so a lot of vulnerable college kids who are willing to do a lot of things for money, unfortunately, and thinking that it's innocent, and it turns really crazy really quick. And then of course y'all have tourism, just like we do in North Carolina. And the agriculture. So a lot of our similarities are the same. So when you think about that, and the North Carolina is number 10, South Carolina is number 20, there's still work to be done. And the Attorney General's office is doing a great job, but I think there's still some steps to be taken for that to kind of show a little bit more. In Project Fight, we're able to help people from identification all the way to restoration. So when I say from identification, literally from the moment they're identified, either at a hotel, at a massage parlor, in jail, or at a hospital, we are on site to be able to provide assistance, talk through with them. We do a lot of work with law enforcement, and we are on site with them for operations. When they do stings that you probably see in the paper, typically we're on site with them and able to talk to a victim pretty quickly after they've been identified. The same with massage businesses. We're able to be there and help have that conversation and be the face to that person that's not as scary as law enforcement walking in the door. We go to hospitals, emergency rooms, really identified emergency rooms. because you're coming in for that quick care. You don't want to go to a primary care doctor if you're a trafficker. You want to take them somewhere quick. So we will go in, we will help assess. And then we can offer them a laundry list of services really through our grants that we have in North Carolina. We're able to provide them with anything from emergency housing to clothing and food, all those emergency needs, right? And then we're helping them with housing and employment. We're helping them with working through things with law enforcement. Law enforcement can be really scary when you don't know what to expect or when you've been violated by them, and so we're able to be an advocate through that process. We help them get public benefits and help them with their utilities and their rent. So really literally from identification all the way through, and that can be anywhere from a couple hours depending on what they need and want to a couple years, because this healing journey doesn't happen like that. It's just not that way. It takes a really long time to work through that. Here in South Carolina, we want to do the same. I also didn't mention we have a 24-hour hotline. So we run a 24-hour hotline, so anybody in the state who's law enforcement or hospital or an advocate can call us, and we're also connected with a national hotline, and they can put the calls through to us, and we're able to respond 24 hours a day anywhere in the state. So we want to replicate that here in South Carolina. And I'm not supposed to ask for money from up here, but that's the main problem right now. We can talk more about it later if you want to know, but we have applied for a grant from the Attorney General's office. They did unfortunately run out of money, and so that's our biggest challenge right now is how do we do this here in South Carolina, because reality is it does take the funding to make this happen. Columbia, Richland County Salvation Army has been very supportive and been very helpful in trying to get this started. But we want to be able to change the narrative in South Carolina. We want to be able to change the narrative for a victim who's told you're worthless and you're not loved and you're not valued. We want to be able to come in and be the hands and feet of Jesus and say you are loved, you are valued, and help them be able to get out of that, because when they're in these situations, it feels hopeless. They don't know that they can get a job, you know? Their idea is all I can do is this. And so we want them to be able to see what they can do. We want to be able to spread awareness and educate people so that the word can get out and that more resources are available within the state. This past week, I had the opportunity to go into an establishment in Raleigh, and it really hit home with me, because when we think about a person and how you don't have any value, in this establishment, you paid $15 a day, and you got a little ticket, and you could come in and out that door as much as you wanted for a day and exploit and abuse a lady. And it blows my mind that in 2019, we sell tickets for $15 and let you in an establishment to walk behind a closed door and exploit man, woman, girl, boy, regardless. And the Salvation Army wants to be a part of the narrative changing of that. We want to spread that awareness. We want to be able to get those people out of there. Salvation Army has been doing this work since the late 1800s. This is not new to us. In London, England, the Salvation Army was very pivotal in changing the age of consent for young girls, and actually served some time in jail because of the things that they had to do to really try to get the age of consent changed. So this isn't a new issue to our world. This has been happening since biblical times, and unfortunately it will keep happening until we all are covered in the blood of Jesus. But in the meantime, we can do something about it. We can help victims, and we can love on them and share whatever it is that they need to be able to get to the next step. And every person's different. Every person's journey is different. We have lots of different ways that you can be a part of the equation, and a lot of people ask that question, and so I'm going to go ahead and answer it before it comes up. On the back of this page on your table, I've put a couple ways that you can help spread that word or help be a part of it. One of the biggest things people always want to do is they want to have like a hand-on contact with survivors or victims. And that's just not ideal. Unfortunately, we can't let everybody have hands-on contact. But if you tell one other person that, hey, this is an issue, or if you own a business and there's an illicit massage business or a reflexology business operating in your strip mall, or if you know something's going on, you can share the word. You can give a letter to them and say, you either stop this or you're out, like your lease, figure it out. I mean, it can happen. You can make a difference. It doesn't have to be hands-on with the victim. So we can always do presentations. We want to be able to get around other people and share that. We do human trafficking 101s. I can do a presentation on pornography. It's directly related to human trafficking. A lot of people do not realize that, and that's a touchy subject, but it's real. So we can pretty much do a presentation on anything around this that you would want to be able to gain more knowledge. But the biggest thing today is that we really want to expand to South Carolina. And I think that we're at the point where we need the help of the community. And I am available and open to have any conversations if you want to be a part of that and see how you can partner with the Salvation Army to make that happen. There's contact information on the front of this little one-pager, and feel free to email at that or call. But we want to be able to do this and